Assalamu alaikum. This is lecture number 24 of Global Business Management, and the topic of today's lecture is global marketing and product development. We have three learning objectives of today's lecture. The first one is understand why and how distributing strategies varies among countries. Understand why and how a firm's pricing strategy might vary among countries. And the third learning objective is to understand how the globalization of the world economy is affecting the new product development process within international business. Okay, before we continue with the today's lecture, and in fact this is the same topic and same chapter we are continuing what we did in the lecture number 23, and we are continuing the same topic, which was the marketing, global marketing. And we did discuss in the last lecture about we started with the globalization, which is the seems to be the exception rather than the rule in many consumer goods markets and industrial markets. Then we did talk about the marketing mix, which is combination of the product attributes, distribution strategy, communication strategy, and pricing strategy. Then we talk about the market segmentation, which is identifying distinct group of consumers whose purchasing behavior differs from other in important ways. Markets can be segmented by geography, demography, socio-cultural factors, psychological factors. Two key market segmentation issues: the differences between countries in the structure of the market segments may have to develop a unique marketing mix to appeal to a certain segment in a given country. We are talking about the two factors. The next one, the existence of segments that transcend national border. When the segments transcend national border, a global study is possible. We are talking about the two different things in which comes under the market segmentation. The first one appears when in the different markets, despite the market segmentation is same, like we had discussed in the previous lecture, we had discussed Unilever, how it operated and how it market segmentation in Brazil. Despite they have the similar market segmentation in both countries, if we continue talking about the Unilever, they were using the same market segmentation on the basis of race, and they were trying to use the same marketing strategy for the black people what they had in Brazil, what they had used in USA. But despite the same market segmentation, for the same market segmentation which was on the basis of race, the marketing strategy was not successful in the Brazil. It comes under the first point that despite the same market segments, the marketing strategy firm have to choose differently across the market. The second one is the existing of segment. Imagine the countries have the same market segments, and the pattern across the market is getting similar. In that case, firm can adopt a global strategy. They can make a same strategy rather than localizing that strategy. They are using a global strategy, and they are going to use a same market strategy across the borders. Okay, now there are certain factors which can affect on the marketing strategy, marketing mix. The first one is the culture, which emerge because of tradition, social structure, language, religion, education. And the example is the Findus frozen food division of Nestle, which is a Swiss company, they market frozen fish cakes and fish fingers in the UK, and in France they are marketing Bourguignon and Braviglio in Italy, rather than using the fish cake and fish fingers. On this, marketing of products and making these products are totally based on the culture traditions. Level of economic developments in high developed countries, the expectation from the customers is higher from the products, and they are less concerned with the price. On the other hand, the consumers in the developing countries, they are more concerned with the price and reliability of the product rather than the main important features. The next one, product and technical standards. This is another distinguishing factor which can affect the marketing mix. The national differences can force firms to customize the marketing mix. The next one, distribution strategy. The means the firm choose for the delivering. There are main four differences in distribution system: retail concentration, channel length, channel exclusivity, channel quality. These are the 4 different things which can affect on distribution system. Now let's talk about what are the barriers to international communication. Communication means how companies are going to interact with their customers. There are 3 different barriers. The first one is the cultural barriers. Might be in advertisement the things that they are portraying in one country, the same commercial might be give some other meanings in the other country because of the culture. Like we have seen, we have discussed the example of this thing that the Unilever, they have introduced bath soap in USA, and they advertise this bath soap, this product, through the advertisement in which women is laying in the bathtub, and her husband came into the washroom and offered her that soap. And when they showed the same commercial in the Japan, that couldn't get that similar success what they got in the USA because of the cultural differences. In the Japanese culture, it was not accepted to enter in the washroom while even her wife is in the bathtub. And because a main thing is that there are some cultural expectations, cultural norms, and advertisements should be in line with these lines, these expectations and norms. But the important thing is there is a possibility that culture can give, like for instance, very famous thing is black dress, which is a symbol of mourning in the Western culture, and similarly in Japan, this mourning and the funeral, people wear the white dress. A message that means one thing in one country may mean something quite different in another country. Firms need to develop cross-cultural literacy and use local input when developing marketing message. This is another thing. When they are trying to use a similar advertisement, then they have to spend money before making the advertisement. They have to spend the money to learn the local culture, to develop cross-cultural literacy within the organization. Firms should know the local culture and norms and expectations and use local input. They should use the local input. They can take the local input by hiring local people and in the advertisement making this marketing campaign, or they can outsource the marketing campaign and marketing this advertisement part to the local companies who are going to develop the advertisements according to the taste of the local markets. Source and the country of origin effects. This is another factor which can affect on the international communication. Source effects occurs when a receiver of the message evaluates the message on the basis of status or image of the sender. Can counter negative source effects by the de-emphasizing their foreign origin. Example, French wine. Okay. Imagine because of the source effect, we have already positive or negative effect about the country. Like we have the positive impact of about this world when we think about that luxury car. German luxury car, German definitely they are good with the television or this sort of electronics, or Japanese, these are really good, and they are like in the cars we have this always that the Toyota, they have really good cars, and they are according to our national infrastructure, according to their thing, and they are well built and more reliability. We have already this image, positive image about the source of origin effect. This is the source and country of origin, country of origin effect. It can be positive, it can be negative. In the terms of negative, for instance, if we talk about the same electron home appliance product coming from the Vietnam, we know this thing that's not going to be good in reliability in terms of that thing. Like Italian clothes, the designers, French wines, more taste. Country of origin effect, the extent to which the place of manufacturing influences product evaluates anti-Japan wave in US in 90s. Like it was similarly country of origin effect was very high when the anti-Japan wave in the US, because of the stealing of the technology of the semiconductor industry. Japanese, and the second thing was that Japanese government was trying to discourage the US automobile manufacturers to enter in the Japan. Because of these two main reasons, US consumers have some sort of an anti-Japan wave in the US in 90s, and because of this thing there was a negative effect, negative impact, negative impression of those Japanese products in that era. The third one is the noise level, the amount of other messages competing for a potential customer's attention. In highly developed countries, noise is very high. In highly developed countries, noise is high. How can it be high? In highly developed countries, the market is really concentrated. There are a lot of powerful players in the market, and the one firm trying to establish its effect, trying to establish its identity within the minds of the consumer. At the same time, other firms are trying to do the same thing, and so consumers are facing several messages from the different companies about the same product. In that case, in a way, consumer is not getting the message from anyone. This can be the noise effect, and this sort of effect is very low in developing countries where competition is low, and noise tend to be, because if the competition is low, the noise level will be lower. How do firms communicate with consumers? Firms have to choose between two types of communication strategies: a push strategy and the pull strategy. A push strategy emphasizes personal selling, and pull strategy emphasizing mass media advertisement. Which is better, push versus pull? The choice between strategy depend on the product type and the consumer sophistication, consumer's expectation, we can say. A pull strategy works well for firms in consumer goods selling to a large market. Now we are talking about the conditions when pull strategy is more preferable. Pull strategy is preferable when firms is operating in consumer good in large market segments. A push strategy works well for industrial products. Second one is the choice between the push and pull depends on channel length. If the pull strategy works better with a longer distribution channel, and the push strategy works better with the shorter distribution channel. The third one is the media availability. A pull strategy relies on access to advertising media, because they are trying to attracting the consumers. They rely more on the advertisement. A push strategy is better when the media is not really available. Push strategy is not dependent on the media. That's why if the media is not sophisticated, even then the push strategy is workable. Okay, push strategy: consumer goods, large market segments, long distribution channels, and mass communication has cost advantages. Push strategy: industrial products or complex new products, direct selling allows firms to educate users, short distribution channels used in poorer nations for consumer goods where direct selling only way to reach consumers. On the other hand, pull strategy: longer exclusive distribution channels like Japan, mass advertisement to generate demand to pull product through various layers, and the push strategy in countries with the low literacy level to educate consumers. These are the different scenarios and traits of the market where pull strategy is more feasible. Okay, push versus pull. For industry products and or complex new products, short distribution channel, few print electronic media available. For consumer goods, long distribution channels, sufficient print electronic media to carry message, and this one. The first 3 points are for the push one, last 3 points are for pull one. Mean these are the different conditions under which push and pull strategy is preferable. What is the optimal mix? In general, a push strategy is better for industrial product or complex product when distribution channels are available and when few print electronic media is available, and the pull strategy is better when the consumer good products when the distribution channel is long and when sufficient print electronic media available to carry the marketing message. Okay, should a firm use standardized advertising? Standardized advertising means same advertisement across the countries, across the market. Standardized advertisement makes sense when it has significant economic advantage, creative talent is scarce, and one large effort to develop a campaign will be more successful than numerous smaller efforts, brand name or global. Okay, these are the three conditions when the standardized advertising makes sense. Let's try to correlate with this standardized advertisement, this point, with the case study that we had done in the last lecture, the small thing about polarized camera when they first SX70, when they introduced in the mid-70s SX70, and later on with the standardized advertisement campaign, and later on when they used instant camera with the non-standardized advertisement. In the first case, as we know that in the standardized campaign that was failed, standardized across the American and the European market, and that standardized one advertisement campaign and similar advertisement campaign and marketing were failed, and in the later on they use non-standardized, or we can say the semi-standardized market advertisement that went successful. Now let's talk about what about the brand names are global. When these are the three things we have to consider. If the brand name of that company was polarized, was really big, then that company could use the standardized advertisement. And the second thing is, if there are significant advantages associated with the same campaign, might be they have spent too much money or heavily cost with the advertisement in the one country, then they try to follow the same campaign in the another country. This could be the one reason, and they try to save the money for the advertisement making the advertisement in the other countries, other markets. That's the second thing. The third thing is, might be in the new markets there is some shortage of talent to make the creative talent to make the advertisements to the demand of the local taste and people. These are the three different scenarios in which firms can use standardized advertising. Standardized advertising does not make sense when culture differences among nations are significant and advertising regulations limit standardized. Okay, When the culture differences among the markets, among the nations is really huge, then the standardized advertisement is not the right way of marketing the products. And the second one is advertising regulation limits standardized advertising. There are some regulations and they cannot use the same regulations, same advertisement. But if we relate the case study of Polarized Net camera, the first point really fits well with that example. The cultural differences, because of the cultural differences, the same standardized advertising was a complete fail in the mid-70s, and people were not expecting, and there were some differences, and because of those differences, firms were the advertising campaign was a failure. And some firms standardize parts of the campaign to capture the benefit of global standardization, but customize others to respond to the local and legal environment. Okay, what they did in the second half of the product in the mid-80s for the polarized instant cameras, in that case they keep the main theme of the campaign similar, but they they provide the freedom there to their foreign subsidiaries to change and alter to their marketing, their advertisement according to the local demands and local taste and expectations. Even they allowed their foreign subsidiaries to change the main tag of the product, and in that case, what they are doing, they were standardized parts of the campaign. There are certain parts of that campaign was standardized across the countries, but customizes that campaign according to the local culture and legal requirements. And what people might be like, we have seen this thing that might people cannot interpret the meaning of the main line, taglines, or meaning of the advertisement. And in order to solve that issue, that company allowed their foreign subsidiaries to alter the taglines and main message. Now we talk about the small example. It's about the Unilever, who is trying to sell their products to the India's poor. Unilever is one of the largest and oldest consumer products companies. Unilever has long had a substantial presence in many of the world's poor nations, such as India. Outside of major urban areas, low-income, unsophisticated consumers, illiteracy, fragmented retail distribution systems, and the lack of paved road has made for difficult marketing challenges. Despite this, Unilever has built a significant presence among improvised rural population by adopting innovative selling strategies. Now what they are talking about, the Unilever has a presence, their presence in many developing countries like India, and despite they have the major challenges in the Indian market, and especially in the small villages where people don't have the buying power, illiteracy, unsophisticated fragmented retail distribution system, and the road, the infrastructure is very poor and very difficult to reach, because they are talking about the retail, and this is a Unilever product. They have to reach to the retail small shops, and infrastructure is very challenging. And despite this thing, even then they have the innovative selling strategies in this sort of countries like India. India's large rural population is dispersed among some 600,000 villages, more than 500,000 of which cannot be reached by a motor vehicle. Some 91%, this is really surprising and really astonishing feature of the Indian villages. Some 91% of the rural population lives in villages of fewer than 2,000 people, and of necessity, rural retail stores are very small and carry limited stock. We can imagine this thing that in what happened in our small cities and villages, that the small towns and there are small shops, and they have very small stocks and limited stock in the shops. The population is desperately poor, making perhaps $1 a day. 2/3 of that income is spent on food, leaving about 30 cents a day for other items. Literacy levels are low and TVs are rare, making traditional media ineffective. These are another interesting features, that their buying power is very low. Might be they are earning $1 a day, and they have to spend 70 cents on their food and the 30 cents on the other thing. They have only 30 cents to spend for any purchase, and Unilever is targeting those 30 cents. Another thing, the main important advertising medium, the TV, they don't have the TV. And now how Unilever is going to approach those people, and in those difficult circumstances, in those far away, far areas, those rural areas and poor areas, what would be the marketing strategy? That is interesting. Despite these drawbacks, Hindustan Lever, Unilever's Indian subsidiary, has made a concentrated effort to reach the rural poor. Although the revenues generated from rural sales are small, Unilever hopes that as the country develops and the income level rise, the population will continue to purchase the Unilever brands that are familiar with, giving the company a long-term competitive advantage. To contact rural consumers, Hindustan Lever tries to establish a physical presence wherever people frequently gather in numbers. This means ensuring that advertisements are seen in places where the people congregate and make purchases, such as at village wells and weekly rural markets, and where they consumer products such as the river banks where people gather to wash their clothes, and using the company hopes Unilever soaps. It is not uncommon to see a village well plastered with advertisements for Unilever products. The company also takes part in weekly rural events such as a market day, at which farm produce is sold and family provisions purchases. Hindustan Lever salesmen will visit these gatherings, display their product, explain how they work, give away some free samples, make a few sales, and seed the market for future demand. The backbone of important thing is in this passage what we have learned this thing, that the marketing strategy, they are trying to reach those people, their customer, and through sending their sales representative in the points where the people gather, like the markets, and they advertise their products on the wall of the small villages, and they try. But their main important thing is they are trying to keep their presence among those villages, in those small markets, in the hope of the future return. What they are saying, this thing might be in the future because of this development, and country will develop, and that at that time the Unilever, the Hindustan Unilever, will be the most established brand, which everyone knows about. That will be the most established one, and it will get the competitive advantage on their rivals. The backbone of Hindustan Lever's selling effort, however, is a rural distribution network that encompasses 100 factories, 7,500 distributors, and an estimated 3 million retail stores, many of which are little more than a hole in a wall or a stall at a market. The total stock of Unilever products in these stores may be no more than a few sachets of shampoo, or half a dozen bars of soap. Depot in each of Indian states feeds products to major wholesalers, which then sell directly to retailers in households in thousands of small towns and villages that can be reached by motor vehicles. If access via motor vehicle is not possible, the major wholesalers sell to small second-tier wholesalers, which then handle distribution to India's 500,000 inaccessible rural villages, reaching them by bicycle, bullocks, carts, or baskets carried on a human back. That's really interesting. I mean, this is the marketing strategy of the Hindustan Unilever, how they are approaching to the people, to the consumer, which are unapproachable in some ways. Okay, what pricing strategy firms should use? Firms need to consider the 3 points when they decide about the pricing: the price discrimination, strategic pricing, regulations that affect pricing decisions. Okay, this is a marketing law. Premium is the promotional items, toys, collectibles, souvenirs, and household products that are linked to a product. This premium is okay in Finland, but not in Australia and France. These are the market laws which vary across the countries. The first one is the premium, which is allowed in certain markets and in certain markets doesn't allow them. The next one is product campaigns, comparison. In advertisements, you cannot compare your product with a competitor. In certain countries it's okay, and certain countries it's not possible. In Germany, competitor can take you to court when you claim made about the product. In Canada, no puffery, use the person standard. No puffery is allowed. Puffery mean some exaggeration. Exaggeration mean like we say that like we see in our advertisement, this is the best bath soap in the world. This is the best detergent. This sort of advertisement, these are the claims where we have seen, we usually see in our surrounding. 100% pure. These are this exaggeration that we use. In Canada, it's not allowed. In United States, puffery is allowed to a certain extent. In Pakistan, of course, you know that it's allowed 100%, and in our advertisement we have seen this in daily basis that they are exaggerating about the qualities of their products, and nobody can stop them. Okay, what is price discrimination? Price discrimination occurs when a firm charges consumers in different countries different prices for the same product. For price discrimination to work, must be able to keep national markets separate. Countries must have different price elasticity of demand. Okay, price discrimination is the important thing. Price discrimination occurs when a firm charges differently of same product differently across the market. This is only possible when these markets are not interconnected with each other. This is the first and most important thing. If the markets are interconnected with each other, then of course the consumers are going to compare their prices with the prices in the other countries. And the second thing is, this price discrimination is possible only when the price elasticity of demand is different across the countries. We are going to see in depth about what is the price elasticity of demand. Price elasticity of the demand is the measure of a responsiveness of a demand for a product to change in price. Is a measure of the responsiveness of demand for the product to change in price. Demand is elastic when a small change in price produces a large change in demand. Price elasticity इसमें हमें देखें कि when the companies are going to make change in the price, they're going to increase the price or decrease the price. When they're going to increase the price, what would be the effect on the demand of the product? And this is called the price elasticity of the demand. Price elasticity of demand. If they change the price, if they decrease the price, if they reduce the price, what would be the effect on the demand of that product? This is called this is the measure, a scale which captures the responsiveness of the demand of the product to the change in price. Demand is elastic. If they are saying that if what you are observing, if the price is changed and people start immediately buying that product, that's called the elastic. The demand is elastic. If the price goes down or goes up, the demand doesn't change. It stays the same. That's apply. The demand is inelastic. Demand is elastic when a small change in price produces a large change in demand. Demand is inelastic when a large change in price produces only a small change in demand. Typically, price elasticity is greater in countries with a lower income level and a large number of competitors. Price elasticity is great in countries with a low income level. In developing countries, the price elasticity is really high, and where a large number of competitors exist in the market. Here we can see on the vertical axis, graphically it's shown that graphically is the price on the vertical axis. On horizontal axis it's output, and the blue line is elastic demand curve, and inelastic demand curve is on the red line. As we can see that on the horizontal axis, as the prices goes down this way, the output level, the demand, we can consider it as output as a demand, because the companies make their level of output, they set their level of output according to the demand of the products. As the prices goes down, product level goes up, the demand of the product goes up in this way, like we can see in the blue line. If we see the red line, it's a sharp decline, but if as compared to the inelastic demand, elastic demand, it's a really sharp one. This slope is really it's not in that it's not inclined to a similar extent as the elastic demand curve, and both are going down as the prices goes down, but the important thing is the level of change is different, and the elastic demand curve is really highly related with the price, change in price. Then what is strategic pricing? Strategic pricing has three aspects. The first one is a predatory pricing. Predator means use profit gain in one market to support aggressive pricing designed to drive competitors out in another market. Okay, they use profit gain in one market to support aggregate. Might be, if consider for example, a firm is operating in 2-3 markets like India and China, and might be that firm will gain really good profit in China and use that profit in India through decreasing that price. They use that profit to support that's Indian subsidiary and offer those, and they can decrease and they can reduce the price in the Indian market. That would be the two keyword why they will do this, to drive out the competitors from the Indian market. They will set the price so low that the competitor will not or could not beat that price. Use profit gain in one market to support aggressive pricing designed to drive competitors out in another market. After competitors have left, the firm will raise prices and earn higher profits. And like if we continue talking about the Indian Chinese, that firm make profit in the Chinese market, and rather than charging the same price in the Indian market, they will set the price really low to drive your competitor out of the market from the Indian market, and then once your competitors out, you can increase the price and then start charging, raise the price and earn higher profit. The next one is the multi-point pricing. A firm's pricing strategy in one market may have an impact on a rival pricing strategy in another market. A firm multi-point pricing. A firm's pricing strategy in one market may have an impact on a rival's pricing strategy in another market. Managers should centrally monitor pricing decisions. If you change, if you set your price in one market, that will also affect the pricing in the another market of your rival company. Experience curve pricing. Price will low worldwide in an attempt to build global sale volume as rapidly as possible, even if it's been taking large losses initially. Firms that are further along with the experience curve have a cost advantage relative to firms to. Okay. Firms who are going through the experience curve along with the experience curve further away on that way, as we know that the cost with the passage of time with the experience curve, the cost of production goes down, and because the cost of production goes down, they can set the price as low. They can afford to set a price at the lower level, and when they set the prices at the lower level, of course the level or the output level or the production, the sale level will increase, and these companies can set the prices low worldwide to attempt to build the global sale volume. And initially some companies can do when they are on the experience curve, they are not further further away on the experience curve, even then they can set the prices low to get the benefit in the markets. Firms' ability to set prices may be limited by anti-dumping regulations. Anti-dumping occurs when a firm sells a product for a price that is less than the cost of producing it. Anti-dumping rules set a floor under export prices and limit a firm's ability to pursue strategic pricing. Anti-dumping pricing. What does it mean? Anti-dumping means, for instance, to produce we can call it a shirt. Similar shirt in Pakistani firm is producing, the cost of production of one firm is 100 rupees, and they are going to sell it for 200 rupees, or we can take of course that will be above the price of production. Chinese firm enter in the Pakistani market and they start selling that product on the 90 rupees. That's called the dumping price. In Pakistani firms cannot compete that price because they are not even meeting the price of their production. This is the job of the government to stop that anti-dumping prices, and they should have the anti-dumping rules, anti-dumping rules set a floor. They decide anti-dumping rules. What they say in our case, they will say, okay, Chinese firm or any other firm cannot sell these type of shirts, similar shirts, as a price of not less than 150, to protect the local industries. Otherwise, local industry will be finished. Okay, the second one is the competition policy. Most industrialized nations have regulations designed to promote competition and restrict monopoly practices, can limit the prices that a firm can charge. Okay, how do regulation influence the prices? The second one is competition policy. Countries have the competition policies in their markets, and they regulate the monopoly practices within the countries. If the companies try to establish a monopoly practices or try to make a cartel in an oligopolistic market, then these competition policies, these rules, these authorities comes in action and start and take some action against those things. These regulations try to promote the competition, and what they are trying to do, because of this monopolistic behavior or because of this cartel, they set the prices by themselves, and they set the price of level of output by themselves as well, with the mutual consensus. And because of this thing, the ultimate sufferer who are going to bear the cost of this behavior is the ultimate consumers. Can limit the prices that a firm can charge. Okay. We are going to talk about the Castrol petroleum lubricant firm, and how it works and how it set the prices across the countries. Castrol is a lubricants division of the British chemical, oil and gas concern Burma Castrol. In Europe and in the United States, where Castrol has a 15% share of the do-it-yourself lubricant markets. Castrol targets motorists who want to corset their engine by paying a bit more for the liquid engineering of the Castrol's high-margin DTX brand rather than a standard lubricant. This differentiated positioning strategy is supported by sponsoring Formula One racing and the IndyCar series in the United States, and by having spending on television and in automobile magazine in both Europe and the United States. Okay, the Castrol lubricant, two things where we learn from the first paragraph. The first one is they are serving the differentiating and market, people who are willing to spend a little bit extra for the better quality to lubricate their cars. So, and the advertisement strategy is they are paying, they are sponsoring the Formula One, and they are using their advertisement spending on television and automobile magazine in both in Europe and US. Some of the Castrol's most notable successes in recent years, however, have been in the developing nations of Asia, where Castrol reaps only 1/6 of its sales, but more than 1/4 of its operating profits. In Vietnam, automobiles are still relatively rare, so Castrol had targeted the vast army of motorcycle owners. Castrol's strategy is to target people who want to take care of their new motorcycles. The long-term goal is to build brand loyalty, so when automobile ownership becomes common in Vietnam, as Castrol believes it will, former motorcycle owner will stick with Castrol when they trade up to car. Now they are talking about to establish their footing in the market. In Vietnam, they are trying to concentrate on the motorcyclists. What they are believing that at the moment, what they are foreseeing that at the moment, though the number of automobile cars is low, but the people are using more motorcycles, but in the future the number of automobile cars will be increased as the country develops, and the people who are using this Castrol lubricant in their motorcycle, they will, when they're going to buy the automobile car, they are going to stick with the same lubricant, and this will be the, they are going to, in this way they are getting the consumers' loyalty. This strategy has already worked in Thailand. They have used the same strategy in the Thailand. Castrol has held the leading share of the motorcycle markets in Thailand since the early 80s, and it now holds the leading share in that country's rapidly growing automobile market. They have adopted the similar strategy what they have successfully implemented in the Thailand. In Thailand, before they stick with the motorcyclists, and later on when the motorcyclists bought the new automobile car, and they started to use the same lubricant, they stick with the same lubricant. And unlike its practices in more developed countries, Castrol's communication strategy in Vietnam doesn't focus on television and glossary print media. There is relatively little of either in Vietnam. Okay, in Vietnam they are not using the same marketing strategy because of the lack of the print electronic media, like what they are doing in the developing countries. Rather, Castrol focuses on building consumer awareness through extensive use of billboards, car stickers, and some 4,000 signboards at Vietnam's ubiquitous roadside garages and motorcycle cleaning shops. Rather than using the electronic media, what they are using the billboards, they are using the stickers, and they are putting those advertisements on the garages of the motorcycle garages. And the Castrol also developed a unique slogan that has a rhythmic quality in Vietnamese: best quality lubricants, and sticks in consumers' mind. They have developed a good logo that sticks in the minds of the consumers. Castrol's researchers say the slogan is recognized by the remarkable 99% of people in Ho Chi Minh City. As elsewhere, Castrol has adopted a premium pricing strategy in Vietnam, which is consistent with the company's attempt to build a global brand image of high quality. Castrol, they are charging a little bit higher because of the brand name and the image of the high quality. Castrol oil costs about $1.5 per liter in Vietnam, about 3 times as much as cheaper oil imported from the countries such as Taiwan and Thailand. In Vietnam, they are selling 3 times more expensive compared to the local oil which is imported from the Taiwan and Thailand. Despite the high price of its product, Castrol claims it is gaining share in Vietnam as a branding strategy wins converts. Castrol has had to tailor its distribution strategy to Vietnam's unique condition. In most countries where it operates, Castrol divides the country into regions and has a single distributor in each region. And in Vietnam, they are using a distribution channel which is different from the other countries. What they are doing, because of this, their lack of infrastructure, and the small and the poor and the villages, poor countries, and they are using a distribution channel, and they are divides the country into the regions, and the single distributor is providing across the regions. In Vietnam, however, Castrol will often have 2 distinct distributors in a region, one to deal with the state-owned consumer and one to deal with the many in the nominally communist country, and one to deal with the private consumer. Okay, Vietnam have the 2 sort of consumer distributor in each region. One distributor is dealing on the state-owned consumers, and the second one is a private consumer. Because this Vietnam have the communist sort of elements, and because of the Chinese influence, they have the state ownership very often and very at a larger extent. They have this state ownership, and to serve those state-owned customers, the Castrol is serving differently private and state-owned consumers. Castrol acknowledges that the system is costly to have 2 different sale distributors, but says it is only way to operate in a country where there is still some tension between the state and private entities. This is the way how Castrol is operating. They are trying to have 2 different distributors, and because of the 2 different distributors, they are trying to have totally and entirely different consumers. One is serving only to the private consumer, and one is to the state-owned consumer, because there is some tension between these 2 different sort of categories. And this sort of category, and this is the only way the Castrol is operating. Now what we have learned from this thing, that the Castrol is, despite they are charging extra, and despite they are charging high prices at its product compared to the local producers who are importing from the Thailand and the Taiwan, they are charging high. Even then, they are claiming that Castrol are gaining the share in the market, and they are and another thing is despite the prices and despite the expensive way of distribution of extra one and double distributors, for one for private and one for the state on, despite these two facets, still they are gaining the markets. These two facets are entirely different. Actually, at least the two dual distributors system is entirely different compared to what they have in the developed countries. How should firm configure the marketing mix? The first one is the standardization versus the customization is not an all or nothing concept. Most firms standardize something and customize another. How should firm configure the marketing mix? What should be the marketing mix? Should they standardize the products, or standardize the marketing, or they should localize or customize the marketing? The best answer is they have to use a mix. Certain elements they have to standardize across the market, and remaining things they can customize the remaining parts. Like we have seen this thing that in this camera example, in the second campaign, this instant cameras, what they have used standardized something. They have the standardized logos and standard trend, standard marketing campaign, and they allowed their foreign subsidiaries to customize their marketing campaign as well. Firms should consider the cost and benefit of standardizing and customizing each element of the marketing mix. Each element of the marketing mix, what is the cost and benefits of using standardization versus customization? And for each marketing mix, they have to compare the cost and benefit, and then try to stick with some standardization elements, and what are the more branding elements and more umbrella sort of things, and which can promote the identity of the brand, and remaining certain things they can customize according to the needs of the market. Okay. Now let's talk about, we quickly go through the summary of the lecture, and the things that we have discussed today is the effectiveness of the firm's international communication can be jeopardized by the cultural barriers. Firms' communication mean how they communicate, interact with their consumers. There are certain things, certain barriers through which create the hurdle, and which comes in the way of in this communication. The first one is a cultural barrier. It can be difficult to communicate messages across culture. In certain culture, one thing is acceptable, might be in certain one culture, one thing is interpreted differently compared to the another culture. The same message, the same advertisement can give the different messages across the different markets. The source and country of origin. In certain countries, the source affects. Certain countries can take the name of one country as a positive impact, as a positive source, and other countries in other countries they can consider as a negative one. It can depend on the trade relationship with that country. Like for instance, whatever might be the Indian firm, India is good at producing. If we know that this product belongs to India, is manufactured by India, it gives a negative impact, negative source and country of origin effects to the Pakistani consumers. And on the other hand, if we know this thing that some certain home appliance or automobile is manufactured by the Japan or Germany, that gives a positive impact in our mind. Or these sunglasses or the fashion these are from Italy or the France, or perfumes, French perfumes. These gives a positive impact in our minds. This is the source and country of origin effects. Noise level. The third point is noise level. The amount of messages competing for the potential consumer attentions. If there is a huge, strong, or ripe competition within the country, the different companies trying to give a message about the same product to the consumers. and these different messages for the same product will nullify it to each other, and this is called a noise effect. The amount of other messages competing for a potential consumer attention for a single product will be considered as a noise effect. In developing countries, firms have to choose between the two types of communication strategy: push strategy and the pull strategy. Push strategy emphasizes personal selling, and the pull strategy emphasizes mass media advertising. The choice between the strategy depending on the product type and consumer sophistication. The pull strategy works well for firms in consumer goods selling to a large market segment. A push strategy works well for industrial product. The second one is the channel length. A pull strategy works better with longer distribution channel. And media availability. In general, a push strategy is better for industrial products and a complex new products when distribution channels are short, when few print or electronic media is available. A pull strategy is better for consumer good products when distribution channels are long, when sufficient print and electronic media are available to carry the marketing message. Price discrimination occurs, this is another term. The price discrimination occurs when firms charge consumers in different countries different prices for the same product. That's all for today. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.